Hello, dear teachers. Now, let's take another PBL number 5 for grade 7 to make our classrooms more engaging and collaborative. PBL number 5 is about WH questions. The title details will help you understand which chapter it has been mapped to. In this case, Journey to the Top is the chapter. Once we understand which chapter it has been mapped to, let's try and understand how our concepts covered is mapped to the learning outcomes of our DSCRT document and how they will be achieved using learning objectives in this particular PBL. Learning outcomes from our DSCRT document contains the following: reads to seek information from the given text, or reads text with comprehension and locates details and sequences, and so on and so forth. Learning objectives, on the other hand, are goals that are to be achieved at the end of the execution of this WH questions PBL, wherein learners will be able to identify correct WH questions based on the context and also understand the usage of WH question words. To spark curiosity, we start with a thinking question. Why do you think people ask questions before making decisions? Well, do I need a pencil for school, or do I need a pen? Do I need to wear my blue socks or my white socks? These are questions that we ask before making decisions. But why is something that the children and learners can come up with themselves. And now let's say hi to Ansi, the character who will be interacting with our learners throughout the module. Ansi will be asking questions like, what's your name? And the learners are required to answer it using the template that's provided. We start with the introductory activity. The introductory activity is to help the learners what question words are and why we use them. And so, it is more of an interactive reading comprehension where the learners are asked to circle words that they think are question words and then pick options that relate to the question words. By answering the question, when do we ask a lot of questions? Is it during an oral test or an interview or while singing? Learners are thus able to distinguish between what questions are and what questions aren't. Activity 2 is again a conversation between two people. It is for the learners to read and understand. Ansi here is here to assist. It is a dialogue between two characters called Ravi and Rosie, and as they are conversing, there are questions asked by Ravi that Rosie is answering, and there are questions asked by Rosie that Ravi might be answering. It is up for the learners to choose the correct WH question words and fill in the blanks. Ansi here is here to help the learners with a few reflective questions like, hey, why are some words here in bold and in italic? Do you know why? This will help the learners think a little more deeper. Next, activity number 3 is for learners to understand what each question word's unique purpose is, and thus they are asked to match the question words with the right information by using the options provided. The first one is done for them. Ansi also helps the learners to think out of the box by saying, I wonder what is the meaning of seek. Can you search the meaning of this word and let me know? This way, learners are not stuck to what is in the PBL, but are given the opportunity to explore outside. By completing each of these question words and their respective meanings, the learners understand why WH questions are used and when they can be used. So, the think about it box is given to ask such reflective questions like, do you think we can use these WH question words to interview someone? How will you do it? These are life applicatory questions that the learners can answer for themselves. Next, the learners are also introduced to the different types of questions. yes or no questions, close-ended questions, and open-ended questions. Examples for each of these are also provided for the learners to understand. For example, yes or no questions are, is the sky blue? Or do you like ice cream? Which can simply be answered in 2 words, yes or no. Close-ended questions, on the other hand, are questions that are specific in nature. There is only one right or wrong answer to it. But open-ended questions do not have right or wrong answers. They are broad in nature. For example, close-ended questions might sound like, did you finish your homework? But open-ended questions might sound like, what do you think is the important invention of all time? Do you see the difference now? Help the learner see it too during your facilitation. The reading passage that is next given and introduced by Ansi is about Raju. This will take the learners through a couple of questions, after which the learners are required to segregate the questions from the story under yes or no question category, close-ended question category, or open-ended question category. Doing so, they will be ready to apply their learning in the next activity, which is activity 4. Here, the learners participate in an interview. Interview is between two people. Interviewer is the person who is asking questions, and interviewee is the person who is answering. This template here provides an interviewer with his or her questions. What can be the response to the same is left up to the learners and their own discretion. They are free to write whatever they think is right, thus helping them understand that open-ended questions can be subjective and do not have right or wrong answers. Once they complete this, a small reflective box is given, wherein what next? Use this knowledge of different kinds of questions and ask questions to your friends and families is encouraged. Thus, a speaking route is opened for the learners. Next, we encourage creative expression through the creative space, where the learners are asked to draw a picture and frame 5 WH questions based on it. They can share it with their friends and discuss what is common and different. Also, they can describe in small paragraph of what their sketch is about. Last but not the least, self-assessment questions. There are 10 questions with 4 multiple choice answers, all of which are objective and covered within the PBL module. And this is to help the learners concretize their learning on their understanding of WH questions. This can be answered using the OMR method of systematic answering, which will be a good practice for future competitive exams. Thank you and all the very best in executing this in your respective classrooms.